says that when her children were very small and they received presents, it was the packaging that excited them the most. First, they would play with the brightly coloured wrapping paper. Then they would play with the box, opening and closing it, and when it was empty, filling it with toys they already had. It wasn't until some time later that their attention was drawn to the actual present that had been inside.
That is so true. And so for this week's podcast on English.com business podcast, we're talking about the importance of packaging, in particular the design.
Yeah, because adults too are drawn towards a product because of the packaging. Now, if you go to any supermarket, you'll see the shelves are completely stacked with similar products from different brands. So what do you choose?
Yes, and as you know, Jackie, you can often find me in the supermarket staring at bottles of wine.
Yeah.
And actually, wine labels are becoming a dominant factor for consumers when deciding which actual bottle of wine to buy. And in fact, in one supermarket study, the most visible wine bottles were noticed by up to 77% more consumers than less visible bottles.
Okay, sorry, so what do you mean by visible?
Well, it seemed that consumers gravitated towards the brightly coloured labels, especially red, orange and gold. And also, the owners of small-size shops agreed. They said that if a consumer is unsure of what they're looking for, it only makes sense that they actually end up choosing the most eye-catching bottle.
Yeah, so standing in front of hundreds of bottles which all contain the same thing, it's the labels that help you make the choice. Now, if further proof of the importance of packaging design is needed, then the story of Tropicana needs telling. Now, Tropicana, as you know, Richard, is an American company that sells fruit-based drinks.
Yes, orange drinks in a carton, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, way back in February 2009, for some reason, the company decided to change the design on the orange juice carton. After less than 2 months and a 20% drop in sales, worth about $20 million,
Wow.
Tropicana switched back to its original design, and that had cost them $35 million.
So what was the big mistake then? What did they do?
Well, for some bizarre reason, Tropicana took a distinctive, characteristic brand look.
That's the orange with the straw, isn't it, coming out of it?
Yeah, and then they replaced it with a bland, nothing special design, just a glass of orange juice. And so the carton instantly disappeared in the masses of no-name juice cartons.
Right, so the people were actually looking for that design which they were so used to, and they couldn't find it, so they picked something else.
The product had lost its visual identity, so it was more about the packaging than the content. Now, interesting, brands of all sizes now are starting to see the value of doing extensive research. Now, in particular, Richard, they're using this eye tracking technology.
Yes, they can tell now what exactly the consumers are looking at, can't they? They can track their eyes over the products.
So they can make comparisons with different designs and which ones attract the eye of the possible consumer the most.
Well, I can certainly see from the consumer's point of view, it'd be interesting to see why you actually chose one bottle or one packet over another.
Yeah, and it's certainly, from a manufacturer's point of view, something that they... In the last podcast for Level 1, we talked about Richard having an accident. But for this week's podcast on English.com, we're talking about why he needs to go to the hospital again. Not another accident, Richard. Tell us what happened.
No, not an accident. But a few weeks ago, we went swimming.
To a river beach?
We went to a river beach. We have rivers here with safe areas for swimming in.
Right.
And of course, I like to swim underwater. And then when I got out, my ears were blocked. Some water had got in my ears and I couldn't get the water out.
Now, that's not the first time. That's quite normal for you, isn't it?
It happens from time to time, yes.
Okay, Richard, you're not deaf, are you?
No, I can just about hear you now, but I am hard of hearing. It is difficult to hear things.
So what problems does that create?
Well, obviously, we like watching the television in the evenings, and it's simply too quiet. I can't really hear it very well. So we need to turn the volume up loud, and you don't like that, do you?
No.
Also, I can't hear the telephone, and I certainly can't speak to anyone on the telephone. It's not good. And of course, I can't hear you speaking very well either.
Yeah, it's annoying for me as well because I have to speak more loudly. And also, I have to repeat things a lot.
And certainly, I can't hear you if you're in another room and you shout at me. I can't hear that.
Yeah, having to shout is very annoying. Luckily, with the television, Richard, we do have subtitles.
Yes, they help.
But it does give you a small idea about what it's like to be deaf all the time.
Must be awful. I really don't want to learn sign language. That must be very difficult.
And even if two people can do the sign language, you still need to be standing in front of each other.
You must be face to face, yes.
Yeah, you can't be in another room. So, Richard, you're off to the hospital. Is it painful?
It's not painful, no. I did go to the doctor and she gave me some oil, some eardrops to put in my ears, but unfortunately it hasn't made a difference. In fact, it's worse now than it was before. So she's recommended that I see a specialist in the hospital and hopefully they can clean my ears out.
Right.
And then I can hear properly again.
You know what worries me, Richard, is that sometimes when someone has problems with hearing, they also have problems with balance.
Oh dear.
And the last thing I want is for you to fall over again and have another accident. For this week's podcast at English.com, we're talking about something people do all the time, but we do very differently.
Yes. The other day, we went into a supermarket and bought loads of things. Food and drink for the week ahead. Not much fresh stuff, as we get that from the market. Now, that's all very normal.
Yeah, but you, Richard, you also bought something for yourself. You bought a shirt.
Very nice.
Tell me about the shirt.
Well, it's a blue cotton shirt, smart casual, I'd say.
Right. Now, it's not the first thing you bought from the supermarket, Richard. What other clothes do you have?
Well, I often buy socks from the supermarket. I bought jeans.
I think you also have a smarter pair of trousers as well.
Yes.
A coat. You have a coat?
Yes, a coat with a hood.
Right. Anything else? A few T-shirts, I think.
Yes, a few T-shirts, definitely.
So it's quite usual for you to buy clothes from the supermarket.
Well, you know me, Jackie. I'm not very trendy, am I? So I like just to get practical clothes, everyday clothes that are well made but not too expensive. And for me, the supermarket is the best place to buy these things.
But the other day, Richard, you also bought a pair of shoes and a hat. You didn't buy those in the supermarket, did you?
No, I got those from the market.
From a market stall?
Yes, but Portugal is famous for making well-made shoes, and these were a really nice pair of leather shoes.
And again, not very expensive, Richard.
Well, they're made locally.
And the hat?
The hat was just like a baseball hat.
For the summer?
Yes.
A summer hat.
What about you, though, Jackie? I know you didn't buy any clothes, but recently I know you popped into a material shop, didn't you?
Yeah, I bought some material to make a dress. I hate clothes shop. I never see anything I like. And so most of my clothes, a lot of my clothes, I make myself because I want clothes that fit they're the right size, they're not too big and not too small, and they're not the same clothes that everybody else is wearing.
So what sort of things do you make then, Jackie?
Well, dresses, skirts and tops. But don't forget, Richard, I also knit.
Yes.
So socks, hats.
And I need another jumper.
Richard has a problem. He has hurt his hand. So for this week's podcast on English.com, we're talking about accidents in the home. Richard, what happened?
Well, it's not my hand, actually. It's my finger.
Yeah.
As you know, we bought a new kitchen knife, which is very sharp. And I was cutting vegetables. I wasn't looking properly, and I cut my finger.
Now, did you say it hurt?
It did actually hurt. Afterwards, it hurt, and there was quite a lot of blood.
Yeah, so what did you do?
Well, I put a plaster on.
Yeah.
It seems to be okay now.
Yeah. Okay, Richard, but this is not the first accident in the home for you, is it?
No, I'm a bit accident prone, aren't I? Last year, I was getting the chicken out of the oven and I burnt my hand.
I remember that.
And also, I remember doing the washing up once. I was washing up glasses. A glass broke and I cut my hand again.
Oh, yes, that was painful.
It wasn't good, was it?
But, okay, when you were a child as well, did you have accidents?
Oh, Jackie, I used to have accidents all the time.
Your poor mum.
I know. I remember one day I was playing in the kitchen. I slipped and I banged my head on the corner of the table.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
It was. It wasn't very nice at all.
Did you cry?
I'm sure I did. I had a very big lump afterwards, that's for sure.
Now, we do have a first aid kit, don't we?
Yes, just as well. Lots of plasters in it.
Yeah, what else do we have in there? We have some creams.
Yes, creams for...
Antiseptic cream.
Antiseptic cream. If you get bites or stings, creams for that as well. And, of course, pills.
Headache pills.
Headache pills and painkillers.
And we have a thermometer.
We do, don't we?
A new one.
In case we get a fever, but I don't think we've used that.
No.
I also remember as a child, one day I spilled a hot cup of tea on my arm.
You burnt your arm?
I burnt my arm as well, yes.
Honestly,
yes.
Richard? Well, they do say that boys have more accidents than girls.
I'm not surprised.
Ireland, England and Wales have 4 patron saints. So for this week's podcast on English.com, I'm asking Richard about them. Right, Richard, easy question first. Name the saints.
I think I can do that. St. George for England, St. Andrew for Scotland, St. Patrick for Ireland and St. David for Wales.
Fantastic. In the calendar year, which one comes first?
So I know St. Patrick is a very famous day. I think that's in March. But I also think St. David's in March, the 1st of March.
Yeah.
I'll say him.
Yeah, you're right. Followed by St. Patrick, March the 17th.
Okay.
And then, of course, George is in April and Andrew in November.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, Richard, only one of them was born in that country.
Right. It's not St. George because I know he's Turkish.
Right.
He never came to England. St. Patrick, I think he was a Roman, I'm not sure. So I think it's David or Andrew. I'll say David.
That's correct. David was Welsh. But St. Andrew, Richard, who was St. Andrew?
I don't know.
Really?
Really?
He was one of Jesus' 12 apostles.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And St. Patrick came from England.
Okay, right, okay.
Richard, 2 of the patron saints were killed
Right.
for being Christians.
Okay.
And they are...
Well, St. Andrew was a follower of Jesus, so he was killed. And I think St. George, he was a soldier, wasn't he, in the Roman army?
It was the Roman emperor,
Oh, okay.
and he was killed because he was a Christian.
Right.
Yeah, and the other two were just bishops, so they died of old age.
David and Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. Now, which one is connected with snakes?
St. Patrick. I know this because there are no snakes in Ireland.
Because?
He drove them out.
Right, I'm not sure if that's true. Which one is connected to the dragon?
St. George. Every English person knows that St. George killed the dragon.
Yes, although there was no dragon.
Okay.
Which one do you think is the patron saint of fishermen?
St. Andrew.
Because?
He was a fisherman in Galilee.
Exactly. So the last one, who is the patron saint of vegetarians?
St. David.
Do you know why?
No.
I think it's something to do with the fact they like leeks so much.